Hello, welcome to School Health Presents, working with our exceptional individuals during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Dr. Rheipp. Today we're going to talk about flashcards. Now I know flashcards mean different things to different people. In the 60s, as we were playing flashcards, one of the favorite games that I participated in was a game we called Traveler during math class. And that's when person got to stand up next to another desk and flashcards would be flipped up. Just some very simple things, whether it be addition or subtraction flashcards or multiplication, division as you move to the upper grades. And the purpose of this game was to see how quickly you could come up with the answer as the flashcards were being given. What we didn't understand at the time was the fact that even the most intelligent of students may not be the ones that answered the quickest. It really came into both recognition and cognitive processing time as to see who would move the most. There were some students in class, and we didn't realize it till many years later through the research, that always unfortunately stayed in their seats. They could never get that answer no matter how smart they were. And that's simply because of the processing time. They weren't processing things as easily visually as the students that they were going up against. So flashcards have meant many different things over the years. For those of us of a more kinesthetic and visual nature, flashcards have played an essential role. I actually, as I was going through some things, found some old Latin flashcards that not only did I use as a student, I used as a teacher back in the old days. Now I know this is one step away from a chisel and a stone tablet like we used in the old days when we taught Latin. But the fact of the matter is flashcards have been around for a long period of time. This is an activity that you can be doing at home. This is an activity, teachers, that you can be recommending as you're going through, but now with a slant towards the 21st century and how things are working. Many of us are familiar with the whole idea of the PEC system, where we have the picture exchange system is what that stands for. And the whole idea is we're trying to get the students to associate words or terminology with a picture, oftentimes a symbol. What we have to be cautious of is sometimes making the transference from this is a symbol of an apple, to this is an apple. For some of our students, they may not be able to make that leap in understanding this is the conceptual idea of apple versus the concrete idea of apple. But it's still helpful to use as we go through. So what can you be using at home? Well, first of all, if you've got some symbol sticks or you've got some other pieces of paper or plastic at home where you've got symbols already set, use those, practice those. If you've got a student who is nonverbal, use them to continue communication, but then maybe use them with some other children along the way in practicing core words or sight vocabulary as we go through. Identify the pictures. And when we talk pictures, any pictures are going to work in this day and age. You can make your own flashcards at home. Get index cards, cut up index cards, and put words if the individuals can recognize words. If not, something very simple. Now again, I'm cheating here. I've got these already made up. These are actually RFID tags from the Proxtalker. So not only am I able to show this to you, and we can use it like a PEC system.
Red.
But if you're using it with the Proxtalker, it's also got that audio input. Many of us at home don't have this type of a setup, but we have something like this. Red can be identified as simply as taking a box of crayons and on that index card coloring red. And working with the students, both on a speech side or if they're nonverbal, simply putting choices in front of them and saying which one is red and having them point to us. Another thing you want to be aware, when we're working with ideas about flashcards today, it is not important that the answer is given immediately. Again, remember the story I gave at the very beginning with students who were just processing things in a different time frame. We have individuals, both neurotypical and those exceptional individuals who may process things a little bit more slowly than others, and that's okay. The idea is we want to give enough time for them to have a positive response or the most appropriate response for what they're doing. So don't expect that every single child's going to rip off numbers when they're talking about addition or subtraction or core vocabulary. Rather, let children come up with that answer, the correct answer. What we also want to consider at home too is moving into flashcards that are more picture-based than anything else. One of the really neat tools that I've come across in the last few years, designed by a woman who is not only an SLP, she's also ABA certified. Her name is Rose Griffin. She designed first action builder cards, and she's designed some other things we've talked about, like the double up game along the way. Action builder cards are absolutely phenomenal because what they do is they describe actions. And so I pulled out brushing right now. Brushing means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So she's got various pictures, very high-res pictures that again can be identified. This particular one is a young lady who is brushing her teeth. This particular one is again a young lady who's brushing a horse. So the idea of brushing an animal too. This particular one is a boy brushing that horse, brushing that animal. This is the boy brushing teeth. We have things like brushing hair. We have things when we get a little bit older, brushing people off. But the fact of the matter is, oftentimes we focus too much on a word or an idea, like a number, an equation that needs to be answered, where it's a specific answer we're looking for. Yet the English language can be somewhat difficult to interpret because something as simple as to brush can mean so many different things in different types of contexts. So having some pictures that you pull, and you can even pull them off the internet, pull them out of magazines, find some pictures that will work, or take a look at the action builder cards, which do a great job of showing different types of actions as we go through, so that there's development of language. It's not just recitation of specific words or again specific ideas. So again, those are action builder cards. I love that idea. Don't forget too, sequencing. And there's different types of card sets out there that you could get or you can make yourself when it comes to sequencing. What do I mean by sequencing? Putting things in order. As you've seen from some of our earlier videos, we talked about how we can turn this into a learning environment for everything that's done at home. Teach skills that are life skills. How about putting together pictures for properly washing hands? You know, we've got the whole idea of making sure you're getting your hands wet, making sure you've got the soap on your hands, making sure you're lathering both sides and in between the fingers as you go through, rubbing for a solid 20 seconds, rinsing off, making sure you get all the soap off and continuing to rub to get that soap off. Then making sure the water's turned off and you're drying your hands and drying them completely. Those are steps along the way. And what we need to remember is that many of our exceptional individuals aren't necessarily good with following along every single step or knowing every step. So we want to get something like that that will pictorially lay out what they need to be doing. Think about it this way. For many of us neurotypical adults, what did washing hands mean? It meant a variety of different things over the last few years, didn't it? From the advent of using any type of a quick hand sanitizer. For some people, that was the way that they clean their hands. For other people, it's water, then soap. For some, it's soap, then water. But basically it was, yeah, just get a quick rinse off, all good. And the only time that many people actually would go for 20 or 30 seconds is if they'd spent a day out in the yard or they were doing some other labor types of activities at work or at home where their hands were really dirty, so it took a while to get the dirt off. But we need to have that 20 seconds to get the bacteria off. So lay out pictures that describe the whole thing and then take the students or the individuals through what we're doing. The same thing when it comes to having a meal. Sequence what you're doing. Put the plates out. Put the silverware out. We're going to make soup. How do we make soup? Get the can of soup out. Open the can of soup. Put it in the pan. Warm the pan up. Or if you're doing something in the microwave, do that. But again, sequencing with flashcards is a very important thing. What we're doing is we're giving visual cues when we're using flashcards as to how something should be done. You might want to think about it this way. Every time you watch a video, including this video right here, it's a visual cue to what's going on in the way that you might be structuring something. So set some things up so that you're going to be able to move forward. Also recognize that flashcards can lead to things like conversations. One of the things you want to be aware of is that all too often we get the idea, oh, it's a flashcard, it must be this, and we begin to pigeonhole this whole idea of flashcards. No, flashcards can be used for so many different things. They can be used to tell a story. If the individual can actually put together the ideas of a story, let them do that, whether it be verbally or non-verbally. Let them move things around to show you how a story flows. Talk about beginning, middle, end, but also let them use their imaginations. Let them involve themselves in the context of a story. By putting some of these cards together, even if they're simple cards, things that you've drawn from a book or just some ideas that you put onto index cards, you're enabling them to create a kingdom where they are the creators of that story of what's going on. What you will tend to find, if you allow them to do that too, is that they will begin to try and understand what's going on in the world around us. Guess what? We're in our homes for a little bit longer now, as you've heard. We're keeping that social distancing up. That's okay, because we will come out of this stronger and more healthy than we've ever been. But the one thing that we need to recognize is, again, there are still so many people saying why, and so many of our exceptional individuals not completely understanding what's happening and wanting to get back out there, wanting to be with their friends. Creating flashcards, but using them in a differentiated way, where it's not just to recite math facts, where they're not just to recite Latin vocabulary, but they're actually used to communicate. They're used to tell a story. They're used to create an idea of how to interact with the world. They're used to engage in conversation. That is taking flashcards to the next level. And the great thing about it is that you can get some flashcards that will be with that individual for the rest of their lives. You may already have things that are there. Use them in differentiated ways, so that they see that things can be used in other ways. Share your ideas as we come out, whether it be through videos or anything else. But most importantly, realize that by taking that time each day and working with our individuals and understanding what we can do while we're already at home, we will help them get through not only this time, but transition into the world beyond this, because we will be coming back together again soon. I thank you for all that you're doing. Wish you continued health as you go through your days.